Hey, it's the Road Show, and we're genuinely thrilled to be joined today by Freddie Hunt. Freddie, of course, is a winning racing driver, following the footsteps of his father, the late legend James Hunt. Freddie is very much his own man, though, who's forged his own unique path to success. He's a great storyteller as well. So, racer, entrepreneur, farmer, proper gentleman, IT expert, as we've just discovered, patient guy. Freddie, welcome to the Road Show, sir.
Thank you for having me, guys. Really appreciate being here.
And you're joining us from Scotland, so there's a little bit of a delay. That's what that is, but we're going to do our best here today. So, Freddie, you really are a Renaissance man in the truest sense. You've got a wide-ranging set of interests and are involved in so many things. So who is Freddie Hunt in 2024, in your own words?
What am I up to this year? I'm still racing a little bit. I've got a couple of, one historic race confirmed and hoping to get an entry for the Goodwood Revival. But to be honest, since, I've been trying to get sponsorship since 2007, more time, more unsuccessfully than successfully. And although I am still keeping an ear out, it takes up so much of my time and makes me no profit. So I'm getting old enough now to have to work on something else. And I have been working on something else for the last few years quietly, which is a luxury sustainable fashion brand. And so that's now what I'm really focusing on with my business partner and I. We launched last year, and we've started taking orders this year, and so far it's going really well. We're actually completely booked up until Christmas, the factory, and so we're looking to expand faster than we're expecting to, which is great.
That's
That's
amazing.
fantastic.
Give it a plug. What's it called?
It's called LK Hunt, so ELKAY Hunt, and it's a sustainable. So all the materials are natural, so cotton, silk, wool, etc. So it's all recyclable, or if and when it eventually ends up in the ground, it will decompose. All the dyeing we do in house, so we can control where the waste goes, rather than if you buy dyed materials, you have no idea where the waste has gone, and half the time may have gone straight into a river. So things like that. So natural materials and controlling where how it's produced is, and it's all handcrafted. It's all hand embroidered. That's the sort of the best part of it is, and the beauty of the piece of their their individual works of art.
Oh, well done. I struggle with that as well. Like, I'm a big motorsport fan, but also, I've got children and I want to make sure that I'm protecting the world for, for them and their kids as well. So, yeah, well done for continuing to push that way, because it does take a lot of effort. Find new suppliers, find new designs, partners and companies that want to join you. It's not an easy thing to do. So good on you.
Thank you.
And it's called LK Hunt. So we know who the Hunt is. Who's LK?
So LK, Lee Keshav is his name, my business partner. We met racing together back in 2014. And we had a good time. He's from India, really nice guy. And since then I've got to know India and the Indians better, and they're really, really wonderful nation. So go out there quite a lot, and so we just got on really well, and it's his idea from the start, so I'm not going to take any credit for that. But he suggested an idea, and I thought, yeah, that sounds interesting, but didn't really think much of it. Didn't think it was that serious. But it came to me a year later, knocked on my door in England with a business plan. I was like, bloody hell, you are serious? Okay, let's go for it.
And it's going well. So yeah.
It's been a lot of slow, gentle R&D since then. I mean, I've been focusing on my racing since then, up until recently. And he's got a full-time job, so it's been just many years of gentle R&D, but now we've come up with a product that we're happy with, and we think the public will like, and so far we've proven to be right, because we've had some good orders in.
Fantastic.
Yeah, the fact that you came to the table with a business plan, right, puts you way ahead of most people, I feel like. And the fact that you went in from racing to fashion, which is also an incredibly challenging space, and made a success of it, is awesome. So stuff is very cool.
Yeah, I wouldn't say success yet. Well, it is certainly a successful start, but it's still early days. We're in our first year, the
I was going to
trajectory.
say 80% of businesses fail in the first year, apparently. So if you're surviving the first year, that's a great sign. So
Absolutely.
so I'm based in London, or on the outskirts of London. Ryan's based in the US, in Colorado. So we have a very big US audience. So a lot of those listeners will obviously know your father, but they might not know your full story. So it'd be great to sort of wind the clock back and start from the beginning, if that's all right, so people can understand, where you're born, where you grew up, what you're interested in, things like that. And then we'll sort of start the journey into where we are today, if that's okay.
So I was born in Guildford and lived with my mother and father until just about 3 years old when they divorced. That was in Wimbledon, London. And
Yeah.
then we stayed in London with my mum, my older brother Tom. It's just the two of us. There was just the two of us then. And then we moved down to the countryside, and that's when I met and fell in love with nature and wildlife. Um, so my main passion in life has always been wildlife. And my mother was from a horse racing background, so I naturally grew up on the back of a horse because Dad died when I was only 5. Um, so I never knew anything about motorsport at all. Never had any interest in it. I was never shown it. Um, and so I played professional polo from the age of 16 to 18. I left school at 16 because school didn't agree with me, or I didn't agree with school, one way or the
Yeah.
other.
You're in good company. It's,
Yes.
Yeah, it was a pain in the arse school. I really didn't like that much. So I left school early to play polo, and that was going okay. But polo is a very expensive sport, like racing, and we didn't have the money. So we had a few horses, but then they got old and tired. When I was in 2006, when I was 18, and I thought, and then on the same day as making the decision to sell the horses, or what's left of them before they're completely knackered, and try and get a job playing for another team on their horses. That very same day, I was invited by chance to the Goodwood Festival of Speed, and so I went there along. And someone said, "Do you want to drive the car?" And I said, "Yeah, I'd love to." So with no racing license, I'd only had my road license for a few weeks at the time, and drove a, I think 300 or 400 horsepower Maserati GT car up the hill in front
Wow.
of 100 or 200,000 spectators, which they didn't
And
know it was
and
me.
that person was Jody Kidd, wasn't it? So
That was Jodie who was driving. She offered me the drive, and Maserati sort of, I think, fairly reluctantly said yes because it was kind of on there. If something went wrong, it would have been on their head because Goodwood didn't know about it. I was wearing Jodie's race overalls and everything, so
oh,
it was a
wow.
bit of
Surprise, surprise. Yeah. That's
so who was
awesome.
faster, you or Jody then?
sorry.
Who was faster, you or Jody?
Oh, I certainly wasn't doing a timed run. I was just
Hmm.
creeping up the hill, making
Oh,
trying to pick it up.
okay.
But I'd never had any horsepower behind me, from a car. My road car at the time was a banger old 2 litre Volkswagen Passat, diesel thing that I inherited from my mum. She was, probably had about 50 horsepower. So yeah, to go from that into a proper racing car with three or
Yeah.
four hundred horsepower was quite something.
What an amazing
It
experience
basically,
doing
yeah, you don't
Goodwood
want to
though.
stuff it, right? That's the goal. You
No.
just don't want to stuff it in front of everyone going up the driveway.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
So that gave you the taste for racing, or for getting involved in cars. So what was the next step after that? Where do you go from Goodwood Festival of Speed? I have
yeah.
no idea. So
Well, I rang my uncle, so Uncle Dave, who was Dad's little brother who raced as well, and I said, Dave, if I wanted to be a racing driver, how would I go about it? And he said, call me back in a week if you're still serious.
yeah.
Good
So I
answer.
did. And I said, I am serious. The horses are on the market. What do I do? So he said, right. So he started to help manage me from the start, and we thought it'll be Formula Ford, Formula BMW, or Formula Renault would be the best options, or possibly Formula Palmer Audi. Luckily, because of my name, that opened some doors,
Yep.
particularly with Uncle Dave making the phone calls as well. We met a few teams in different places. We looked at the odds, and we spoke to Ford, spoke to Renault, spoke to BMW. Ford being the most helpful, and Dad started in Ford, so did Dave. And it was the one championship without wings, without downforce, and Dave was of the opinion that that's the way to start. And in hindsight, I agree with him. That was the right way to start. So we started in the Formula 4 Championship in 2007. Somehow managed to get some sponsorship. I can't remember how. I think partly bits and bobs from friends' fathers. A decent chunk from another friend's father, that wasn't any commercial deal. That was a handout saying off you go because he could afford it. And then I
Yeah.
think the rest came from the team. um,
So
so yeah.
2007 in Formula Ford, that was probably just after when Mark Webber was doing it, I think. Mark Webber came through
Uh,
the ranks in Formula Ford as well.
Yeah, it would have been. I would have thought a few years after, because I don't think it was that long after I was racing. I don't know when Mark Webber. I think Mark Webber may have already been in Formula One when I started racing.
Right,
If not,
okay.
he
Gosh.
got
Shows
into
how
it
old
just
I
after.
am then. Years are flying by, so yeah.
Mark would have been. I don't know. I'm just trying to think when I started. Yeah, I think Mark was on the grid when I first started racing, because I didn't start watching Formula One until I started racing.
Right.
Um,
And he was already there.
and that was Hamilton's first season. I remember that. So it was Hamilton, Alonso, and
Uh,
the McLaren.
he was definitely there then. Should know
Raikkonen
this
in the
stuff.
Ferrari alongside Massa. Raikkonen won that season. I remember that. Hamilton won the next season. Button the season after that. I remember all that, but I can't remember where Mark was winning and where Mark was driving. But Mark was driving for the Red Bull when Sebastian got into the Red Bull and then started dominating for the 3 or 4 years that he did.
Well, the great thing is someone's going to come in and correct me and say, no, he did it in 97, not 2007. So
Right.
don't worry. I'll get corrected. So how did you get on in the first year?
It was a disaster.
Oh,
Um,
sorry.
I
Open
had a,
old
I had a
wounds.
problem, I had a nerves problem. So I was really quick in testing behind closed doors, and which was a sort of double-edged sword. It gave me the confidence I knew I was quick, but also, I was aware that other people knew that I was quick, and so I put a lot of pressure on myself, even on the
Yeah.
Friday practice with everyone watching. Also, I must say that prior to going to a racetrack, I had no idea how famous or loved my father was.
Yeah.
I'd never spoken to any media before. I'd never done an interview before, and then suddenly I go to a racetrack and I've got loads of people, asking for autographs, journalists asking for interviews, photographers photographing me. So
Wow.
there was a lot of, I was like a deer in the headlights really.
Yeah.
And then I had to perform, and I know that I'm thinking I know that these guys know that I'm quick, and so there was just a lot of pressure put on from myself. Now, if only I had my head now, the head now that had it then. Why is that making that noise? Um, it would have been a very different story. You just relax behind the wheel and go for it and trust yourself. But I didn't really know how to do that. So it
And
was a lot
so,
of
so
stress.
did you felt that pressure of, the family name and you felt you had to deliver, or was it just sort of you're thinking about other things, or?
No, I mean, essentially the pressure came from myself, but it was due to the
Yeah.
family name, I guess. Yeah. But come to think of it, whether if I was, Joe Bloggs, would I act the same? And
Yeah.
possibly yes, because I know this. I'm not. For example, when I play a game of pool with a friend of mine, let's say we're pretty even. Um, we can do 10 frames in a row and it's 5-5. As soon as we put some money on it, he'll beat me every time.
Right. Yeah, my son, he races motorcycles and we'll pull into, he's fast at a practice day and we'll go to a race weekend and he'll say, oh, this person's here, this person's here, this person's here. Oh, looks like I'm going to get fifth. I'm like, how do you even know that? Yeah, the race hasn't even happened. In his mind, he's already assigned himself to where he's going to be because of the pressure. So it's
You
the
said the
Yeah,
mental
mind
game is
monkeys,
immense.
mine's
right? You've
very
talked
powerful.
about.
The
Sorry?
mind
Sir,
monkeys.
sorry, you've used the term mind monkeys in an interview. Is that
That's
the term?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, just
yes.
which I
That was
liked.
a phrase coined by the mind bender. I think it was, what was his name? Someone McPherson, Don McPherson. He was a sports
Okay.
psychologist, and he helped me out, or tried to at least,
Yeah.
in 2007. And he referred to them as mind monkeys. Yeah, and it is that little chatterbox in your mind.
Yeah.
I mean, the best races I've done is where I've just been completely empty-minded, like I'm driving in a sort of state of meditation kind of thing, focusing on nothing but what's in front of me, but not really giving it too much thought, just feeling my way through. And yeah, I've had a few like that. But you've got to really know the car well. You've got to have a lot of practice with the car and be really comfortable with the car for that to
Yeah.
happen. If
Yeah.
you're not, and you've got to think about the car, then well, the mind monkeys start trying to help.
Yeah. So Formula Ford was the first year, and you just say you had some sort of challenges there. Where did you go from there then?
So after that, that's 2007, 2008. I had no money. I did actually I had my I was an invitation driver in a Ginesta G20 for two races.
Oh, it was a good
So
series. Yeah.
I won one of those, which gave me some confidence, and I was leading the other race when my throttle cable snapped. And then I was introduced to a new manager in Germany, who took me over to Germany and got me into the ADAC Formula Masters. So we did the last round in 2008 at Hockenheim, and it wasn't too bad. I was feeling a bit better, and I think I finished eighth. And
But
the
that's a
next,
really competitive series, and that's a really, edgy car to drive. So,
tell me about
ha
it. I came
ha
out of a steel space frame chassis into a rigid carbon fiber chassis, and with no room for error. It slides
yeah,
and then it's whereas in Formula Ford you've
on
got half an hour.
Hockenheim, you,
Yeah.
you, like that's a pretty unforgiving track when it goes wrong.
Yeah. There's a video of me smashing up a car on that one. My teammate, it's on YouTube. So yeah, we started the 2009 season, and we did quite a lot of winter testing. The manager over there, he found the budget. I'm not sure where from, but we had the car was plastered in various different brands, so money must be coming from somewhere. And unfortunately, the mind monkeys just got worse and worse and worse. And so mid 2009 or two-thirds of the way through the season, I had enough and I stopped. So
Oh, really? Because of the Mind Monkeys, you just felt too
yeah,
much sort of
it was
pressure
just
and
demoralizing. It was getting really, really,
yeah,
really upsetting. I wasn't enjoying it at all. And it got to the point, even when we were testing alone, I still couldn't find my groove then. And so I thought,
right.
I'm just going backwards and bollocks to this. I thought it must not be right. I've tried. Um, so I'd had enough. So I moved to
Yeah.
Argentina. So I spent a lot of time in Argentina over the years from when I was playing polo. I'd spend the
Mm.
winters
Oh
over there.
wow.
I really love the place. Lovely weather, lovely people, lovely wine, lovely women, lovely meat. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Um, and a lot of fantastic countryside. So the mountains, jungle,
Mm.
everything you want really. So it's kind of paradise for Freddie.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I went back to Argentina, and I was there for how long? I think I only made it about 8 months before I ran out of money and couldn't find any decent work, and came crawling back to mum with my tail between my legs.
We've all been there. That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then a few weeks later, bumped into a chap who just bought a pest control franchise, and he said, "Freddie, this is a good idea, and you can make fairly decent money, and I think you'd be quite good at it." And turns out, it's very easy to do pest control when you've had the upbringing that I have in the countryside.
Yeah.
Catching rats, it's something that just we just do. It's simple. Um,
Wow, you've
so
done
yeah,
quite a few
so
things.
I bought a
And that was
franchise as a
how
qualified pest controller.
how old were you then?
How old? That was 2010 or 2011, yeah. So whatever the maths is in that.
Huh.
Right.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
wasn't
So
expecting you to say that, Freddie.
yeah. You got to turn
So I
your
ran
hand to
off the
anything.
World Cup.
Ducking and diving around motorsport. We've all
Yeah.
done those jobs just to get cash to get to the next race. So
Freddie, motorsport, how much of it is nurture and how much is nature, in your opinion?
How
What
do you
makes a
mean?
good driver?
Oh, raw talent has to be there.
Yeah.
Self-belief, self-confidence. Obviously, a lot of money to get you on the track, whether that's by
Yeah.
sponsorship or family money. But let's say our driver's already got the money. Let's put the money aside. But also, they need the raw talent. They need the self-belief. They need a lot of tremendous self-discipline for the fitness training, but also on track to control one's emotions. And that's another part I struggle with. Even now, where I like to think the mind monkeys are gone. When I do get in the car, I'm pretty relaxed. But emotions, I'm a very emotional person. If I get too excited, I've crashed cars because I'm going too quickly, because I'm going really quick, I'm passing lots of people, and I've got too excited. And so I've crashed that way, and I've also crashed because I get angry. So, controlling your emotions is very difficult. And these Grand Prix drivers, particularly when they're leading the race for their first time, their first win, I think, God, how they do it, the nerves they must be going through.
Yeah.
But you've got to put those nerves aside and just focus on the driver in front of you. And the ability to do that is not easy.
Yeah, I agree. Watching Lando recently when he got his first win, the
Mm,
last lap, I couldn't sit down because I work at McLaren. I knew it would be great news, and he was super cool, and he said, "Yeah, I could have done it more," and that's the time when a lot of people just choke, don't they? And yeah, get it wrong.
yeah. And Dad said he had raced, I think he had led races before in the Heskett before his first win, and had choked. He had made mistakes.
Yeah.
That win at Zandvoort in '75, that was
Oh yeah.
that was the real turning point in his mind that gave him the confidence to to lead and win more.
Just got to get that first one done, and then you want more. You
Yeah,
feel relaxed, like you say. You feel less. It's different pressure. I think it's, you know, you don't doubt yourself, but you still has a carrying a win is a heavy burden as well. So, but once you pop the cork on the first one, generally you see people go on a bit of a run, just like Lando now. Since his win, he's now a
mm,
consistent podium guy. Obviously, the car is better and the team is a well-oiled machine. But
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
They're doing really well now, which I'm delighted to see.
yeah, we'll have to get you back down there soon. Actually, it's a good vibe down at McLaren now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So obviously your dad, and this is, I think, for me it was big to know. Like I watched some racing of, know of your father. I've seen the commentary that he used to do, and that was incredibly good to listen to. He was fantastic, him and Murray. But I didn't know that he did some coaching with Mika Hakkinen. That was big news. So how did that come about, and what's some stories there? What's the value
I
that
don't
he
know.
added to Mika?
Oh, you had a lot of value, all right. But I don't know that much about it. So I've only spoken to Mika once about this, and it
Yeah.
was news to me when I actually met Mika, and I interviewed him a few years ago, just before COVID. It must have been 2019, I think.
Yeah.
And that's the first time I'd heard of it. And I'm trying to think, what did Mika tell me? Yeah, Mika was, when he got into Formula One, he was struggling with putting pressure on himself and trying too
Again.
hard and
Yeah.
not enjoying it, and basically he wasn't delivering, and the team could see that it was because of his head. So the team said, right, go and talk to James. And so he said, okay, obviously Dad was well retired by that time, and Dad was at home tending to his budgies. So I don't know
Oh
if you know,
yeah,
Dad,
that's right. Yeah.
he had hundreds of budgies, which he showed competitively. And so Dad had Mika helping him clean out the budgies. Mika said,
Whilst he's
"Oh,
departing worldly Formula One advice. It's
Right.
great.
yeah.
It's very Karate Kid, wax on, wax off, right? It's
And Mika was saying, what the fuck am I doing here working with budgies? I want to get in the car and drive.
Yeah.
But what Mika said, essentially, the information that Dad got to him was that you need to, in order to deliver, you need to enjoy yourself. And
Yeah.
if you're not enjoying yourself, pack up and go home. So figure out in your mind how to do that, to go and have fun. And I think that's what's helped me actually, is just learning. Well, my mind was just sort of not learning not to care too much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I care too much, I put too much pressure on myself. And I
yeah.
think it's just, a similar, if not the same, psychology with Mika. Dad somehow got him to realize how to relax in his mind and have fun and go and have fun, and then he went a lot quicker and
It's
won two world.
interesting that Mika suffered from the same monkeys because he seemed like the coolest character, from the Finnish personality is, Iceman is very stone faced and personality, but it's interesting that he suffered the same pressures as well when he came into Formula One, a very talented driver already and very accomplished. So you think he would have, yeah, had it in
Yeah,
hand, but it shows that everyone's susceptible to these mind, pressures.
yeah. I mean, I can spot it with drivers on the grid now. And when you can see when they're having a good day or an off day. And
Yeah,
it's such a mental game, and the standard is so high these days. If you're off by tiny bit in your mind. That could be, 2 tenths, and as we've just seen,
Yeah.
2 tenths first or fifth, or more, half a second. And still half a
Yeah.
second isn't that much in a racing car, but it's a lot in a racing car, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So you've had some fun racing. You've had the pressure. You're saying that racing is over for you, or just it's just going to be for fun now?
I mean, mostly for fun. I mean, I'll always take it, seriously, but yeah, I
Like
think if you're doing a
if someone rang you tomorrow and said, right, there's a season
committing
in
to a
a
full
GT car,
season,
we're going to pay for it. What would you do?
um,
It's a terrible drug, isn't it?
yeah, yeah, it is. I mean, I'd like to stay in the LMP3s, but the LMP3 I can't race in Le Mans. I love Le Mans. I want to do the 24 hours Le Mans, but
Yep.
I can't do that in LMP3. So my choices are GT3 or LMP2.
Okay.
I think I'd be better, more competitive in a GT3. So, if money was no object, I'd probably do the European Le Mans series in a GT3, and with the hope to get invited to Le Mans.
Yeah, that sounds like a great
I think
goal.
that's the
There
biggest
was,
thing. I mean, 'cause
do,
fun
do you even
racing,
know
I
the
don't
name?
Ford. That you can't beat Formula Ford racing. I mean, old club Formula
Yeah,
Ford without the wings, without the downforce.
yeah,
That is definitely the best racing.
yeah. Do you know of an ex-Le Mans racer called Jan Lammers? He's
Mm,
a he used to race. I think it was the Dome Judd LMP one car. I think it was at the time,
the name
and
rings
he
a bell.
struggled. Sorry.
I was saying the name rings a bell, but I don't know anything about
Yeah.
him.
So he's done. I think raced the Silk Cut Jags back in the day at Le Mans, and he ran out of. He was struggling with sponsorship with this team, and so he created a campaign where he covered the car in black and white boxes and sold each square. And so he was trying to raise enough money to get one car out. And these are not cheap cars to run, Judd Lawlers, and sorry, Domes. And he had so many people, like he broke it down to bite-sized chunks of money, where you got invited to the race shop for twice a year for a presentation. You got posters, you got a model of the car, you got your sticker in the square, you got a ticket to a race, and he had that many people that thought it was a great idea and signed up. He actually had enough money to buy a second car and run two cars. So
Bloody hell.
it, there's some cool concepts out there. You break it down to bite-sized, affordable chunks of money. I think you'd get a lot of people interested in, supporting you and your name and your dream to, get to Le Mans for 26. So we can take this offline. I don't take much of a commission. I can help you put that in place. So
Okay, yeah, we can talk about that. Cool.
yeah, let's. No, I wouldn't take any commission. It'd just be great to see you back on the track, mate. So
Absolutely.
I'd love to be a part of it. So what about in your personal life? What's family wise, partner wise, or you're sort of throwing yourself into business, farm and fashion.
Um, I'm single, but I broke up with a girlfriend last, was it? Yeah, towards the end of last year, and I'm quite happy on my own at the moment, to be honest.
Yep.
Um, yeah, when the right woman comes, she will come. There's no point rushing it. I'll probably give
Yeah,
a few more,
absolutely.
and I'll be moaning that I'm so lonely. Oh, but no, at the moment I'm quite happy with my own, focusing on the fashion and the
Yeah.
farm is. I mean, I bought a derelict farmhouse, 3 years ago, and I've almost finished the renovations. I mean, it's been 90% finished for over a year, but it's just that final push.
Yep.
And the animals are all going well, but I've got more fences to repair, got roofs to repair. I've still got 5 outbuildings, which all are slowly deteriorating if I don't keep on top of them. So it's just continuous work, which is a
Yeah.
stretch, but enjoyable.
So I don't want to do the cliche sort of comment or quote or link, but obviously we watch Clarkson on Farmer, and it's hilarious in our house. We watch it, and I personally, I like dirt bikes. So I wanted to think of owning a farm and have my own track and have some fun and space. And then I watch Clarkson's Farmer, and I just think there's no way in hell I could sign up to that level of 24/7 commitment. So respect to you for,
Yeah.
loving what you do.
Well, I must say, I mean, this isn't a commercial farm. I literally, it's just enough animals for myself. I've got pigs, poultry,
Yep.
and sheep, and I would like some cattle, but one step at a time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's just feeding myself. I've got a large veg patch, which that's quite labor intensive, or relatively.
Yeah.
But that's enough. And because I travel so much, that's the stressful part. When I'm away, I get back and the veg patch is just full of weeds, and the pig's broken,
Well,
something broken. Yeah,
animals
just
need to be fed. It's not like cars. You stick them in the garage and you can just go back to them, when
Right.
the sun comes out. You got to look after animals. So, yeah,
well,
it's
luckily I've got someone very reliable. A lady keeps her horses here, and she feeds the animals and looks after the animals when I'm away. However, when
yeah.
when things get badly broken, she's not in a position to fix them, so I can't, and I wouldn't ask that of her.
Yeah.
But yeah, just the maintenance of the place does, things do happen when I'm away, and when I get back, it's, oh, crikey, got another problem to solve.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
Freddie. Speaking of garage, what's in yours? What do you drive for fun? What's your daily driver? It's a question I like to ask professional drivers.
I'm afraid I'm going to give you a boring answer. Cars to me they're tools and toys, nothing more.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
so I've got a Toyota Hilux 2003, and I've got a Audi A6 Estate 3 litre diesel, which is just wonderful for motorway cruising. It's very practical. It's good MPG. It's fast enough for the roads. Um, if I had a lot of money, what would I get? I'd probably get an RS6 rather than A6. And if I had plenty of money, the toy that I'd have would probably be a Koenigsegg, I think. I think they're
Yeah.
the monsters of
So
monsters.
good. So good. Do normal cars do it for you? I mean, do you still get a thrill out of a regular sports car on the road, or is it just not there?
I certainly enjoy it, but you can't really put your foot down on the road because you're either going to lose your
Yeah.
license or kill yourself or someone else. So,
Yeah.
so that's the issue. I feel a bit, well, I'm doing the speed limit in a car that can do 5 times the speed limit, and no, it's a
Yeah.
bit dull. So you want to put your foot down, and that's why I choose comfort in it.
Yeah.
As long as the car has the performance, so you can overtake when you need to.
Right.
It's comfy, it's got enough grunt. I don't want to be driving some shitbox.
Sure.
That's why I love my Audi A6. It's a great car when the electrics don't fail. Bloody windows don't always work, and it's a nightmare. The
Is that
Hilux is a bulletproof workhorse which never goes wrong. Even when I think something broke on the suspension a couple of years ago because I was roughing it.
yeah?
I managed to fix it myself, which I was pretty surprised by.
What
Well
is it
done.
about Audi electrics? And I think
Yeah.
they have that sorted out by now. But
I just like the Quattro. I like Audi. They're good.
yeah,
They're good cars, and I really like the balance of them, the Quattro, and the way they drive. They're great cars.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. What do you drive?
Well,
Well,
I've got a GT4, but I drive a 2016-17 Volkswagen Tiguan. That's my daily driver. But I don't know what I'm doing. So GT4 is plenty. Tiguan keeps me out of trouble, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But it's so funny because I've asked that to so many racers, drivers, and it's never, anything crazy, right? It's never a Ferrari, right?
yeah.
It's always something very practical. And I think there's something about that when you've driven, at the limit, when you've driven these amazing cars, there's just so much less to get out of a car on the street, right? Like you do start looking for comfort and practicality, but it seems to be a theme.
Well, that's it, and I think when you've driven a racing car, at the level that I have, an LMP3 or higher than that, with that enough power and downforce, not many road cars can compete with that. For the feel of speed and grip. And then you've got the danger aspect of it as well. Most racing drivers have had ones with enough, as much experience as I have. They've had some big shunts. You hit a wall at over 100 miles an hour and you walk away without a scratch on you, but if you hit a tree on a road car at that speed, you're dead. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's another reason for not driving like a twat on the road.
That's a really good
Hey,
point, actually. Yeah. Once you've sort of worked it out of your system on track, on road, you just cruise. Comfort is king then, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I drove a bit quickly the other day, and I just couldn't stop thinking if a deer pops out now, I'm toast. So
yeah.
Yeah.
the adrenaline came up, and I thought this is crazy. Slow down.
Yeah. Time and a place.
Yeah.
Freddie, thoughts on electric cars?
Don't get me started.
No, please start.
Because you're an environmentalist. I mean, you're
Yeah,
animals and the
that's right.
environment, and yeah,
I think they're far more dangerous to the environment. First of all, we still got to get the
yeah,
electricity from somewhere. So
hmm
that's number one. So they're not making green electricity. We still got to make these batteries. So we've got to mine all the product, all the materials for them. We've got to
Yep.
still got to burn fossil fuels to charge them up, and then we've got to dispose of the bloody poison.
yeah,
So who are you joking? I don't. I
yeah,
can't honestly understand how many people are buying into this bullshit.
yeah, yeah,
Yep.
It's
yeah.
fucking
No,
ridiculous.
you
Excuse my
nailed
language.
it. Yeah,
Yep.
it's
Yeah, thanks for calling it out. A lot of people are,
yeah,
and I fall foul of that. I come from the industry. You're trying to be politically correct, but it's great to get your passion and your view on it. So,
No, we're on. The performance of them is pretty awesome. I drove out
right.
of driving a Ferrari GTS, which has a
Mm,
battery system in it as well. So I think it's a 3 liter V6, putting out 800 and something horsepower with the I think 300 of that or 200 of that is a battery. But the result was when there's no turbo lag rating, every millimeter of
mm,
throttle is more power, and I was blown away by this car. It was
yeah,
really incredible.
it's a
So
good
for
looking thing too.
great,
yeah,
but
dude. Yeah.
Yeah,
for the story they're selling us, which is
yeah,
for the environment, is absolute bullshit. We need to use
yeah,
hydrogen or biofuels.
yeah.
Yeah, and we're seeing a big
It scares.
pushback against electric vehicles as well at the moment, aren't we? Where people are saying, they're too expensive, they're too heavy, the infrastructure's not there, and
Mhm.
obviously there's the green element to it as well that people are seeing through the BS. So,
Mm. And the
There's some
impracticality of
wonderful
it.
electric cars out there, but
My ex-girlfriend's
yeah.
got one, and she's sometimes a little bit forgetful, and if she doesn't remember to charge it up overnight, she's buggered. She can't get to work in the morning.
That's right. Yeah, you can't just nip to the garage and give it a boost.
yeah,
So,
Yeah.
where do we go from here? Obviously,
yeah,
we know where you are now, and obviously for I guess the American audience that we have, they'll know of your father through Rush,
mhm.
and obviously Formula One racing. So in our eyes, he's a legend. What do you think makes a legend, and what do you think you're sort of taking away from your father's story? What values do you take from that moving forward as a son?
Mm. I don't really know, to be honest.
Because I know you have a bit of a challenge with the movie Rush, don't you? Where you feel maybe they didn't portray him in the best light. And I will add, obviously, I watched it and I thought he came across as a hellishly nice bloke, genuine, and I don't see anything negative of it. I don't like Chris Hemsworth because my wife finds him attractive, so I'm happy to hate him. So, but yeah, I'd love to get your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I mean, I have been a bit harsh on Chris in the film, but I suppose I haven't really said that I'm being quite anal, quite picky.
Yeah,
What I must say, on the whole, the movie is good. It is
yeah,
great, but they changed a few things which they really didn't need to change.
yeah.
One in particular, which really wound me up, was the preempted aggression, punching the
Mm,
journalist. Dad never did that. We know Dad
Oh,
punched
yeah,
people, but it was never preempted.
yeah.
He punched people on camera, but the preempted aggression. So I didn't like that part. But the main fundamental flaw was Chris Hemsworth's inability to capture Dad's personality properly, and that's what made Dad so special. What people loved him was his personality. Is he was cheeky and humble and innocent,
mm,
whereas I thought Hemsworth just came across cocky and I'm the big I am.
mm.
And yes, he
Yeah.
seemed a nice guy, but then in contrast, which was to add insult to injury, was Nicky Lauda. Daniel Bruhl played an absolute masterpiece of Nicky Lauda.
Yeah,
So just the contrast, the skill of the acting. Now, actually, I don't want to knock Chris too much. I don't know much about acting at all. So he
Yeah.
may well have been directed to act that way. But one way or the other, it's someone's fault.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you ever spoken with him about this,
No,
or
I'd love to talk to him and hash it out and ask him the
yeah,
question, were you directed to, or did you just not quite get it? I mean,
yeah,
why did you not contact him the family? He didn't do any
yeah?
research.
Interesting.
Yeah,
He
that's
spoke to Jochen
crazy.
Mass. But Jochen Mass, that's his dad's teammate. It's one it's one person's perspective on his dad's personality, and particularly I don't think asking the number two driver is a very good source of information, to be honest.
Well, he's gonna see a different personality and probably one that was a threat to him. So it was his, like you say, his interpretation of your dad's personality. It's a shame it didn't come from the family. So
Yeah, yeah. And, Dave and Dad's friends. I mean, obviously Tom and I wouldn't have been much help because weren't alive at the time.
yeah.
But Uncle Dave, Uncle Norm, I think all Dad's brothers were alive at the time. Yeah, they all were. Um, and and Dad's friends, they could have given a hell of a lot of insight. But he didn't. He didn't ask that. And Daniel Bruhl asked Nicky Lauda if he could live with him for 2 weeks, and he said yes, and he did. And as a result, he nailed it.
Yeah, wow.
Freddie, is there
Wow.
a source?
Quite exceptionally talented. Everything else I've seen him in, he's been really, really good.
Yeah. Is there a source? Is there a book, or is there a documentary, anything that really does capture your dad accurately?
Books, the two best books. One is James Hunt Against All Odds, and that was written with Dad while he was alive. And the other
Okay.
one is the only other one which is actually authorized by the family, is James Hunt the biography written by Gerald Donaldson. When was it released? I think it's been around for a long time, so probably not long after Dad died. Documentaries, there's been some which are okay, but we're actually in the process of making a new one to try and be more all-encompassing about his whole life, because
Oh,
we feel
that's
that the media
exciting.
has spoken very much about his racing success and his womanizing and partying, but they've overlooked a lot of things, and that's what we want to tell the world.
So when will that documentary come out?
We are aiming for beginning of 26.
Okay.
Yeah. So if all
Can
things
you
go
share the title, or too soon?
too soon, I'm afraid.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Well, we'll
Well, keep us
definitely look
posted.
for
We'll
that.
definitely,
Yeah.
we'll,
Yeah.
we'll circulate some PR as well, and yeah, give it a good shout out. So
Cool. Thanks.
Well, Freddie, we really appreciate your time. We know we had a few
yeah,
technical glitches getting this going, so can't thank you enough for your patience and sticking with us, and really enjoyed talking with you. I want to come back to something Alan just said, and he alluded to, what makes a legend. What in your eyes, what makes a legend?
One that can stand out from the herd of sheep, the flock of
Yeah.
sheep is just. Um, yeah, the courage to not listen to the naysayers. People say you can't do it. Dad would have had 100 people tell, probably more than that, saying you can't do it, and don't be ridiculous. Dad came home from his first race, the first race that he watched, and he said, "Mum and Dad, I'm not going to be a doctor anymore. I'm going to be a racing driver, and I'm going to be world champion." And no doubt, obviously, they laughed at him, but he didn't take any to listen to that. That's one thing that makes a legend.
Yeah.
But there are many legends in this world, and people do it in different ways. And there are silent legends, I believe, that have no fame and not any recognition, but they probably help people and do wonderful things, all day, every day, which they don't get any recognition for. Well then, but they're a legend in my eyes. When you meet those people, you see those people, they're real special ones.
I think that's a great answer to that
yeah,
question. So,
and probably a great way to end, I think. So,
yeah. Well,
so
Freddie Hunt, thank you so much.
yeah, thank
No,
you.
my pleasure, guys. Thanks for having me. I hope all the listeners have enjoyed what I had to ramble on about.
It's great
100%.
to have an insight into
Yeah.
your life. It's been many challenges, and obviously, yeah, you've got some exciting stuff coming. So we'll all be watching with enthusiasm, mate. So
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Freddie. Hope we can do this again sometime.
yeah,
Likewise.
take
Till
care.
next time,
Bye.
we're the Roadshow. Thank you.
Bye bye.